Dr. Hines, will you introduce the show?
Sure. Hello, and welcome to today's edition of the Black Health Trust with our founder, Dr. Randall Maxey. Um, he will be getting us started for today. We'll be discussing voting implications and issues related to health.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hines. Dr. Walsh, welcome. I went to church today. I tried, and the theme of the service was "I will." I think it was in the 34th Psalm. It says, "I will speak well of the Lord, no matter how things happen to be going." We have a very important topic discussion today, given by Dr. Walks. Dr. Ivan Walks is my personal doctor, my personal psychiatrist. He gives me my Thorazine. But more
I do
important,
not.
he is a psychiatrist. He was the medical director of the Department of Health in Washington, D.C. He served with several presidents. He was also at one time director of mental health for Los Angeles, California. And I could say much more about Dr. Walks, but he will acquit himself very well in what he's going to speak about. And what he's going to speak about is knowing not only should you vote, but know the issues on which you're voting and why you should vote those and how you should spread the word on that. We're going to discuss that topic. Dr. Walsh, welcome to the stage. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Maxey. So, and I want to welcome my fellow psychiatrist, Dr. Harmon, and I'm gonna make him an honorary co-moderator today because sometimes, if one psychiatrist is good, two's better. So let me just and of course I don't see Dr. Lawson yet, so I might need all the support I can get. Let me look. You guys know that I have sort of a, I don't know, sometimes almost whimsical approach to things because I like to keep things as upbeat as I can. But let me start off our topic today, talking about the fact that I am a big proponent of voting, registering for voting, and all of that. I think it's just critical. And I do agree that there are people that gave their lives so that folks could vote, especially folks that look like me and look like many of us could vote. But it occurred to me, we had a big political forum at our church this past week, and I thought it was great that we had 20 different candidates running for office come to the church. We had people from all over the community who came to listen to these candidates and understand what it was that they were offering. And one guy I really liked a lot, he said, "I want to tell you why you should hire me for the job." And I'm like, what? He is coming here like it's a job interview. And I said to myself, well, that's exactly what it should be. It should be a job interview. And and then I kind of felt bad about myself because I don't know how many of us have been in the voting booth and we're going down the ballot because we know why we're going there. We're going to vote for one or two or five or seven people, but there's like 20 of them on the ballot. And I get down there and I'm like, oh my goodness, how can I choose between this name and this name? I don't know these people. Usually, I'll be perfectly transparent. I will pick a name that sounds like it's a Latino person because then I know I get some variety. And and I used to think, well, I could just pick the black people. I said, wait a minute now. The most racist person in America is black. That's Clarence Thomas. I've never heard of anybody more racist than Clarence Thomas. So I think that when I think about voting, and this is near the end of my little sermon, Dr. Maxey, but I think it's important. I don't think anybody died to give us the right to vote. I think people gave their lives so that we could make good voting decisions, so we could understand the consequences of our votes, so that we would take a minute and go into a polling booth understanding the issues and understanding who we are hiring to do a very important job in our community and in our country. So I am a born again voter. I am absolutely interested in understanding who is applying for this job, and do I believe this person has the qualifications for the job? And so why am I talking about this on Black Health Trust? Well, I decided to do a little research. What happens to us? How is the current political climate and the climates in which we try to function? How is that impacting our health? Because we like to think that these are all these separate things happen in life. That, this matters on this side and this matters on that side. And we know that's wrong. We know about social determinants of health, right? And we talk about folks who have legal issues, and folks who have housing insecurity, and folks who have food insecurity, and how all of that impacts our health. So I wanted to talk a little bit today, and Dr. Maxey said it was okay, about navigating political stress in community health, addressing chronic civic anxiety and how that impacts longitudinal health and longitudinal care, managing systemic burnout and resource constraints. And what about frameworks for community-based providers? What is it that we have to do as we're out there trying to be the doctor people, the provider people? So today I want us to cover, it's a lot, but I'm going to try to just hit some of these things. And please, Dr. Maxey, Dr. Hines, interrupt me or stop me, because y'all know I will just run down the road. I wanted to identify some neurobiological impacts of civic stress on our outpatient community. Look at how some of these systemic policy shifts drive community level health disparities. Maybe evaluate a little bit of the hidden cost of moral injury in community medicine, and then equip clinic teams with some tangible disease de-escalation strategies. I know that's a lot, but there's a lot happening to us as a result of what's going on in our political environment. So let's think about politics as an outpatient social determinant of health, if I can drop it into that very, very important bucket. Let's go a little bit beyond just ideology and look at viewing political atmosphere as an environmental health factor. We talk about, I grew up in Southern California. We talk about just the regular atmosphere, about the smog being a social determinant of health, and we know about how it can impact asthma. Well, the political atmosphere can certainly impact our health as well. There are downstream effects, how legislative decisions physically manifest in local neighborhoods. Somebody is making decisions about whether they lock the playgrounds up because nobody's able to cut the grass, whether they put fences around places so kids can be safe. All of those things impact our community. 24/7 hyperconnectivity on baseline community health. What the heck is that? We talked, I think it may have been last week, about the fact that when some of us were young, even if things were tough at school and there were bullies there, when you left school, you can come home and you were good. I remember a time when TV used to go off, when you couldn't watch TV after around 11:30 or midnight because it would just turn off. There'd be a test pattern. Now, TV is on all the time, thanks to Ted Turner and CNN. We have news, we have political commentary, we have pundits all the time. It's very hard to not watch news. And I'm going to be real old for a minute. We don't have Walter Cronkite anymore. We got 17 people at the same time telling us 17 different things about what the politics are and what they mean and who really wants to help our community. So the level of input that we get now is just absolutely nuts. And If we think that doesn't impact our mental health and therefore our physical well-being, we're just not paying attention. So, what about the pathophysiology of chronic civic stress? Dr. Maxey likes it when I use, big words like pathophysiology because, he's a smart guy. He understands all those words. There is a perpetual state of low-grade fight or flight that can happen in our brains. In church this morning, the pastor was talking about how we can be in a stressful situation, and Dr. Hines can help me with some of the neurobiology, but he was talking about how having smart PhD pastors is sometimes dangerous, Dr. Maxey, because they sound really, really smart up there, even on health stuff. But he was talking about how the amygdala gets triggered. And so even though you're no longer in the middle of the very scary situation, your body can still react that way. So you've been in a traumatic environment and you're still flinching, even though nobody's bothering you and nothing is happening. We can have those kinds of things happening in our body. We've talked before on Black Health Trust about increases in systemic cortisol and inflammatory markers, and those things can happen because of this political stress that's going on. You wake up one day and the state of Virginia has changed its maps to counteract something. And then the Supreme Court says, no, we're not going to let you change those voting districts. And then the Voting Rights Act that we've thought was safe for 60 years is now suddenly changed. These are the things that can impact us and cause us to have cumulative wear and tear on our cardiovascular and our metabolic systems. And we talk on Black Health Trust a lot about how important our cardiovascular systems are and our metabolic systems. And they are important. And now I'm sharing with you, and many of us already know this, and if you don't, now you know, all of the political turmoil, all of the political changes, all of the things we thought were okay that aren't okay, that also can have an impact on our cardiovascular and our metabolic systems. So, effective polarization and neighborhood health. The psychological toll of social division is significant. The animosity shifting from personal debate from policy debate to personal identity. We used to talk about whether it was good to have this or good to have that. Now we're talking about people as being good and evil and bad and all of that. This is going on within families. So you're having not only polarization in the community, you're having social fragmentation, you're having family members that aren't talking to each other. Everything ain't okay at the cookout anymore because people are one issue voters, and sometimes they are just insular because if I vote this way, it might help me in my individual job or my individual business or my individual industry. And so we're having erosion of some of these tight-knit neighborhood support systems or family ties. And I know as a psychiatrist, we are seeing rising generalized anxiety. We are seeing rising isolation. And so we have folks who are increasing in their diagnostic meeting of criteria for these illnesses. They're actually, this is making people sick. It just is. And so we talk about things like doom scrolling, but you're actually putting stuff into your brain when you're sitting there and going through whatever it is, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, you're going through X, you're going through all of these things, and it exploits dopamine pathways. As folks are sitting, reading the latest pundit, we talked before on Black Health Trust about blue light and the disruption of REM cycles, the normal sleep cycles. We've talked about that. And you're constantly processing high stakes polarizing news. It is amazing how constantly everything is life or death, right? It's all the time. It's life or death. There's another bomb is about to be dropped. Another ship got blown up. Another neighborhood got destroyed. Another apartment building got bombed. We are seeing so much, and it's tied to the decisions that are being made by people for whom we vote. And now, as we're getting close to the midterms and all of the current political issues that are being raised, this is a big deal, and it will be an even bigger deal over the next several weeks and the next few months as we move through 2026. So I wanted us to think about that today and think about the fact that it isn't just, oh, I watch the news. It's that this stuff is really impacting me, and it's impacting me and my family and my community. Now, when we look at what happens sort of after the fact, right? So we've had an election, this person's in the job, that person's in the job. The legislative dictates. I don't know who has not been paying attention the last year, but I thought I understood how major laws and things changed in America, but then I realized that, boy, you can change a whole bunch of stuff real quick. And so the laws around funding, the laws around insurance, the laws around reproductive care, and those are just the ones that make us think, oh, yeah, I remember I heard something about that. But a lot of other things are going on that we're not really even seeing until well after things have changed. But the legislative dictates can impact so much about our community safety, about our freedom to move around. Um, I won't go into any of the examples about people being stopped and pulled off the street and people from Central America being sent to the Congo. I don't even understand who does something like that. Um, but these are all part of what's happening in our world that, going back to those things I talked about a few minutes ago, they impact us. They impact our body. They impact us physiologically. They impact us physically. Um, Navigating things like insurance volatility. We don't think about the fact that maybe who we vote for or what the person we vote for, how they feel about insurance can impact the availability of resources for us. We could spend a whole hour of Black Health Trust talking about the impact of something like Obamacare, the reasonable debate that we need to continue having about how we pay for healthcare in this country and what we get when we pay for healthcare in this country. I think it's important for us to really understand that our outpatient settings, our doctor's offices, our provider offices, our outpatient clinic really act as shock absorbers or buffers for some of these structural shifts that impact our community. And of course, the thing that maybe we hear about the most and we don't necessarily react to as quickly as we could, financial toxicity as a health driver. What happens after elections can really impact our finances as a family. Our church during the last partial government shutdown opened a church grocery store. I'm sure I've mentioned it before here on Black Health Trust, where people, families could come in, they could bring their children, they could walk down the aisles and load up their shopping cart, and then they would go to the checkout at the grocery store, and it would look like they were ringing everything up because they were identifying what they bought, but then the family could leave with the groceries and not have to pay anything. That way, your kids don't need to know that you're going someplace where you can get free food. You don't have to share that particular bit of news with your young children, but they can pick stuff out, like if they're going to the grocery store with you. And that's a big deal. It's a huge thing for parents to worry about feeding their children. But it comes back to the politics and the people that we quote unquote hire to do these jobs that we pay them to do. So to just go back to the shutdown for a minute, legislative gridlocks impacting wages, housing. A lot of people lost housing over the course of just a few months because they had those what we always thought were great government jobs. You work for the federal government, you're good. Wait until you retire. Hasn't happened. Inflation, we talked about it a little bit, but suddenly bombs got dropped in Iran and everything got real expensive real quick for a lot of folks. I know people that are out trying to buy an electric car now because they don't want to put gas in their gas car. Things can change a lot. And it really gets back to who do we hire for these jobs. I talked about insurance, but the financial issues with changes in co-pays and premiums and all of that. Here's one. What about the consequence of changes in medication costs? That is clearly a political thing. People that are in political office can impact how much we pay for stuff. Nobody raised their hand, but who thinks that COVID is completely gone away? Nobody gets COVID anymore. COVID hadn't killed anybody since 2022. That's not true. They still can. But a couple of years ago, if you got COVID, you could go and get your Paxlovid from your doctor, get a prescription, get your Paxlovid, and it was free. If you get COVID now and your doctor wants you to get Paxlovid, I think it's like $1,200 or something like that. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for something that was free a couple of years ago, just because politically somebody thought that this was over and we don't need to pay for the medication anymore. That's a political decision. That medicine didn't suddenly go from being this to that. These are things that happen in the political environment in which we live. Vulnerable populations, existential threats, right? So we have targeted legislation that has specific impacts on communities and sometimes aimed at specific minority groups. Did I mention anything about ICE yet and about what groups are being targeted because they look a certain way or they sound a certain way? So patients are fearing for their safety because of legal status. Are people going out to the appointments they used to go to? Are people being compliant and going and picking up their medication? Are some folks afraid and so they're at home? There are significant challenges, and these political decisions that are being made compound the existing historical health inequities. Because we look, if nobody else believes that there are existing health inequities, we believe it here at Black Health Trust. We've talked about it. We've had experts of all stripes come on to this program and demonstrate it and document it and show us charts and graphs and all of that. So we understand and we know that these inequities exist and that we have to pay attention to them and think about them when we are hiring people through our vote. Now, the thing about being a provider in the middle of all of this is we're getting it kind of from two sides, right? So we are managing our own personal and familial, family, political anxiety about what's going to happen if so-and-so wins or so-and-so doesn't win. And then our patients are coming to see us, and our patients are doing what they're supposed to do. They're telling us what's wrong. They're coming in and we're asking them, how are you? How are you feeling? Tell me what's going on. Or my favorite one is, I ask my patients, so catch me up. What's been happening since the last time we talked? Boy, when they catch me up on what's been happening since the last time we talked, sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes it's a lot. They say, Dr. Walks, was that you? Did I see you walking down Georgia Avenue? Yes, it was me. I need a break sometimes. During my lunch break, I'm out there walking down Georgia Avenue. I take a walk and I walk back because it is hard sometimes to soak up all of the things that we get. But that's the job that we signed up for, right? So, and sometimes you hear stuff from people that you don't want to hear, because they voted for the guy you wish nobody had voted for. or the woman that really is not the one you thought ought to be in the job, right? So we have to deal with our own stuff while we're in the middle of these just really harsh political climates. Um, and then sometimes I'm like, can y'all just get along? I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Can you just pass some legislation? Can you just talk to each other? Can you remember that there are people out here that need you to do some job? We hired you to work. Can you just work? Instead of telling me how, well, I'm fighting for you. Yeah, but you're not getting anything done. Help me with that. So all of these things are challenges for us that I think we have to be able as providers to first grasp what's going on around us, grasp how it's impacting us, and then deal with that next level of frustration, right? That level of frustration when we know that our patients are being harmed because we are being blocked from what's needed, what should be done for them. We prescribe something, we recommend something, and the decision is no, we're not doing that for whatever reason. And we understand the reason because every once in a while we see on TV somebody saying, thank you, channel whatever, channel 4, channel 2, thank you, because before you called, they told me no. But all of a sudden now it's medically necessary, right? Those are the environments in which we have to work. And I think it's hard for us because many of us have to deal with those legal or political mandates that are restricting what we think is a standard of care or a standard of practice. We have these feelings of guilt or frustration, just hating the system, sometimes hating the job that we have to do because they won't let us do it. And so all of this goes back to the fact that this is not just a right to vote. It's a responsibility to understand who we're hiring for the job. Um, so what about when politics actually enters the clinical encounter? What about the patients that come in with a rant? And look, it's okay. If you hate what I hate, great. Come on in and rant with me. But if you disagree with me and you want to come in and rant, that is not good for my level of anxiety. And I think many of us as providers, we have to struggle with maintaining a professional demeanor, a professional neutrality under these ideological discussions about, well, get a job, whatever it is that people come at you with when they just lump everyone into these categories or lump so many people into these categories. It can be very, very challenging as a provider. And sometimes precious clinical minutes are lost to these non-medical items. I'm trying to understand what's happening with this part of your body, but you're way off on this rant because you want me to understand this thing that is really bothering you. So there are ways for us to embrace the fact that these are the people coming toward us. So we can acknowledge to folks that I understand or I hear what you're telling me of how incredibly stressful this current news cycle is for you. Um, I can redirect you. I say, you know what? Let's look. You sound like things are really bothering you. I get it. Let's see if that's impacting your blood pressure today. Because the last time you were here, your blood pressure was 120 over 70. Let's see what it is today, given what's happening. So we can try to shift the focus back to what's happening with the work that we have to do. Um, we can help our patients, the folks that we're working with, not to have that despair, not to have a sense of paralysis or hopelessness. Well, what good is it going to do? Well, I want you I want to change your statin medication to help your cholesterol level. Well, why should I even bother? The world is so bad. Why? I want you to try to exercise a little bit. Why should I bother? Everything is so terrible. I should just give up. There are real consequences to people living in a very, very stressful world. And I think it's useful for us to recognize that and to try to intervene a little bit, recognizing that we can recommend some community volunteering, some community work. The place where I live has these strategically placed senior centers where folks can go and it doesn't cost anything. Well, it does cost because you got to be a certain age. But once you've paid your dues by living to a certain age, you can go to these senior centers and there are activities there. You can learn things. You can be distracted with other people. All of those things are absolutely things that can help, and we can tell our patients about. Um, excuse me. Protecting our own cognitive bandwidth, really important. We can find ways to distract ourselves. We don't have to watch news 24 hours a day just because it's on. We can move away from some of the highly partisan commentary, the people who are focusing on what they think about something, and we can just try to get some factual information, maybe some statistics, some charts and graphs, the kind of information sharing that Dr. Maxey encourages here on Black Health Trust, or as they used to say back on the old TV show, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. And if we can have a clear policy of trying to keep the political rhetoric, the political hype out of our workplace, out of our clinical settings, I think that can be a way for us to get a little bit of a break. We can look at agreeing on collaborative boundaries within our healthcare teams, within the people who work in our office. We can have medical discussions that are focused strictly on evidence-based guidelines. We can create open spaces so people can decompress from some of the moral injuries that are happening out there. There are a lot of ways for us, if we are aware of the fact that these things are bothering us and bothering our patients, we can begin to address them. I can I, I can talk for another hour. I'm going to stop because what I really want to do is to have a little bit of time for us to address the fact that we are able, in the middle of the things that are happening in our community, we have a responsibility to not just register and vote, but to register to vote and to respect the earning of that vote by understanding who we're voting for and what we're voting for so that our votes matter for the things that matter to us. I'm going to stop there, Dr. Maxey, and take questions and just take a break. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walsh. That was very, very relevant and very interesting. There's a word you used. I'd like you to explain a little bit more. You used something called moral injury. And I believe that we suffer from that. We have misinformation. We have things that misdirect us. And is this what you mean? Talk about moral injury, how that can affect us in a negative way, our health.
Dr. Maxey, I think that this is my definition. I'm sure Dr. Hines has probably already looked it up and has whatever the dictionary says it should mean. For me, moral injury, I wasn't born 2 weeks ago. I've been on the planet for a minute, and I think I have a pretty good sense of right and wrong. And so when I see things that are happening that are being presented as okay, it's okay to snatch me up out of my restaurant where I've worked for decades and take me away from my family and send me to another country because 20 years ago when I was a kid, I did something that I paid my dues for, and I'm now employing other people. I'm now contributing to my community. I'm paying taxes. I'm a solid citizen. I feel it's wrong, and it's different. It's okay, Dr. Maxey, you got me ranting again. I was trying to calm down, but I think it's wrong when I see something happening that I think it should be wrong, but the world is telling me it's okay. That's what we're doing now. You've heard people say, "Oh, that's what we're doing," because that's how I feel so many times now. I look up and I go, "Oh, so that's what we're doing." It takes me right back to 28th and Budlong in LA. When I lived on 28th and Budlong, that was a place when I would say, "Oh, that's what we're doing." And I'm looking at the world right now. I'm serious, man. It hurts. It hurts when I have to look at the world and say, "Oh, wow, that's what we're doing."
Mm. And the
That's my
people,
definition.
you're right. Dr. Hines.
So I would second that. So the more formal definition is the psychological, social, and spiritual damage that is caused by either committing, witnessing, or failing to prevent things that deeply violate your core moral beliefs. So to Dr. Walks's point, so like acts of commission, so the things that are being done, whether it's war-related things, healthcare things, some of the things that are happening in high-stakes businesses that go against what your moral or ethical code is, or that on the other side, the acts of omission, the things that are happening that where there is not an action being taken to stop these things that are clearly against your, moral turpitude. And then lastly, I think one of the probably the biggest ones that we're all communally experiencing is just the betrayal, right? The
Mm.
experience of the deep violation of trust between your leadership or authority figures or your peers on how they are showing up. As Dr. Walk said, that's what we doing now. Like those are real, very real things that are experienced in your body as well as in your mind and at a spiritual level as well.
And the thing that I've noticed also, Dr. Walsh and Dr. Hines, is what's acceptable if you're Caucasian and what's acceptable if you're not Caucasian. The two different standards.
Well, I think we all, though Black in America, we kind of knew that, but it's such on full display uh, right now. Like the things that people can just get up and say.
Your microphone is not too good right now.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
You can go back to.
Yeah, when you lean in, it's better.
Okay. But yes, the things that people can just go on and say, there was someone in the Alabama state legislature that said, now that we've got the Voting Rights Act, let's go ahead and get the one that, abolished, that gave citizenships to Blacks after slavery. Like, what? You can say that from the podium now? That's where we're at. But one of the things that you brought up, Dr. Watson, I wanted to touch on it about this vote. You said many things that were super important, but I also wanted to say
Hold on, Dr. Hines. Hold on. Your microphone is still garbling you a little bit, and I always like to hear what you have to say.
Give me a minute. I'll change.
Okay. See,
Okay,
Dr.
that
Massey,
better?
Dr. Hines brings all that young smart that we need.
That's true. That's
Yes,
true.
ma'am. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. One of the things I just wanted to make sure that we covered also very clearly is it's more than midterms that we're talking about, because many of your midterm outcomes are being decided by primaries that are happening right now, right? So for example, there are many, especially at the local level, where your Democratic or Republican representative may be running uncontested, right? So whoever wins the primary wins the election. So some of us aren't even turned on yet because we're waiting for November. But unfortunately, in some places, by the time we get to November, it was already decided back in May, right? Or back in June. So we have to turn on now as far as engaging in voting, making sure that we are on the rolls, figuring out what our position is on issues. I have no shame in saying when that practice ballot comes in the mail beforehand, I will look at it and then try to pick my answers beforehand. And I will because you can bring your cheat sheet in with you
to the ballot box, right? So that then you kind of have an idea. But inevitably, there's always something that what is Proposition 27? Like that wasn't on my,
Right.
wasn't on my paper. I don't know what that is. And sometimes the wording can be confusing to try to understand what it is that this thing is really asking me to do or to say that I'm for. There's double negatives in the way things are written. Sometimes it is intentionally confusing. So if you have the ability and access to look at practice ballots beforehand, that can take some of the stress off of trying to decide in the moment when you've got to pick your top 6 out of these 12 people. I don't know. Right. But if there's anything that we should have learned right now in this system, it is that the place where we might have thought federal ones were the ones that really mattered. Nah. Come to find out, it's these local and state ones that are really, really mattering right now.
That's very important. You also have to know how to count the jelly beans in the jar. Another thing, and Dr. Walks, you might want to bring in your honorary co-host. But one thing, once a person is elected, they also depend on polls and what we call them with. And you should communicate with the guy who's elected and let him know he's doing a good job or not doing a good job. And you should express that in polls. They want to be reelected. So you got to do that too, Dr. Walks.
Absolutely, Dr. Maxey. You can't vote and just go home. Because to take this back to the physiology, our bodies continue to be bombarded by and continue to react to the news of the day. What is the vote that was just taken wherever, at the local board of education, at the state house, about a particular thing that can impact the community? I think I was talking with someone who they voted to put some sort of an industrial plant next to her house, and I don't know, something that made bad stuff for humans, like it was a plastics plant or something like that. And there was a local vote taken that it could go there. And she, it's like, wait a minute, what happened? I didn't think anybody would do something like that. So you can definitely have things that happen, and you need to be able to speak up and answer those poll questions and figure out how you can be involved. Maybe you start your own not-for-profit organization. Maybe you join somebody else's not-for-profit organization. Maybe you carry a placard and go walk in a march. I don't know. But I think that all of these are issues that do impact us and impact our mental health. And Dr. Harmon, if you'd be willing to make a comment from your psychiatric posture, or just your I'm a human being living in America posture about some of this. Simon, can we get Dr. Harmon unmuted, please?
While that's happening, I just wanted to also make a point to what you were saying, Dr. Walks, about how something can just show up in your backyard and you may not have even realized that it's happening. Another way that we're seeing that happen is with data centers, right? And detention centers showing up in communities, but communities have been able to block those things because they got out there and let their county representatives and local representatives know, hey, we do not want this in our communities. And I say all that to say a lot of this stuff makes it feel like there's nothing we can do. It's just happening and there's nothing we can do, but there really is still space for us to be able to do something with our voices and our presence.
Amen. Amen. Dr. Harmon.
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I was so gratified for this opportunity, and I think, Dr. Watts, that you and I have something in common. I grew up in California, and and migrated east, and so it was a long odyssey. And also, I think you were at Yale. I was at Rochester and Yale. And
That was not me. They only let the smart people like you.
oh
I was at
no,
the
no, no.
University of Southern California.
No,
I did
I
do
was
some
at
work at
Maine.
Harvard later, but that's
But
okay.
you spoke of a lot of different things that you know I did not come prepared when I was thinking about systemic COVID, all the kind of misinformation that we have, because I've treated people with long COVID and
Yeah.
how, you know, systemic it could be. And people don't really understand these things. And then because of the politics, many people weren't, you know, treated adequately. And then I was thinking about all the different kind of uh, hip hoppers and music and the things that appeal to a lot of our young Black people, and how, in terms of political, the negative influence, and even how some of these people voted, and also athletes, Black
Mhm.
athletes coming up in some ways and being influenced because of the money and going through the system. And many of them did not vote for Harris. You know, when you talk about politics, and it's really sad. It's really sad, the multi layers, and it's very different. I don't know if some of the people here, but you probably heard of the late Chester Pierce.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Doctor,
absolutely.
he was a giant,
Yes.
and he used
Yes.
to talk about the microaggression and
Yes.
all those insults that you, but it's no longer micro, it's macro. And
Right.
it's, you know, it's just
Yeah.
multi layers. You know, I've treated people who were in situations. I was thinking about one high-end person who works around the jury, you know, very and how our kids, it started with the families, our own families, you know, who not reach, and how they end up going into places where young Black, you know, entrepreneurs are trying to make a living, and they can be raided. And
Mm.
so it's just a multi layers that, you know, that we have to really deal with. So I just am glad of the opportunity to hear. Um, and so I didn't come with anything prepared, but I see it at all different points. Poor natal care, you know, all the kinds of things. And then people not taking their medication you know, adequately, you know, suspicious of doctors.
Yeah.
So I'll stop with that, but I can react to some of the things that you're saying. So many things.
Let me just say, Dr. Harmon, you came with all the preparation with which you needed to come. You came with a heart, with a history, and you understand that these are the kinds of opportunities that we have, that Dr. Maxey has curated for us here on Black Health Trust, that we can talk about these things. We can let people know that, hey, we're listening, we're paying attention. We know that there's stuff going on that's not right. It's, you know, it's just like what, you know, that old joke. Well, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I can tell when I see it. I can tell when I smell it. I can tell when I hear it. There are things going on that are wrong, and we have to be able to pay attention. So no, I appreciate you, Dr. Harmon, being willing to lean into this topic a little bit, because we don't often, I don't think we talk enough about how much it impacts our mental health. And I've had patients, I'm sure you have, that say, oh, so much was going on, I forgot to take my medicine. So much was going on. It is an ordinary thing that our brains can't take all of this bang, bang, bang and still function at 100%. They just can't. So, um, Dr. Maxey, we are getting near the top of the hour, and without you reining me in, we'll be here another 3 hours, man. I'm sorry.
Uh, I can't rein in. You're in. You're too good. What you're doing is too good. If we have any comments in our chat, Dr. Hines?
No
We
questions, but plenty of affirmations and co-signing of the wonderful points that were made thus far.
Anybody we should unmute?
I think that folks, if anybody wants to make a comment, we're happy to have a comment. Not that we want to stay on until 6 o'clock, Dr. Maxey.
Okay. Let me raise something that's controversial. I don't know how to put it. But I try to go to church every Sunday. But one of the things about the churches that I was raised in, we always put men first. And with the amygdala, why are our religions men first? And why aren't we equal in our respect for all of our people, whether men, females, or what? I think that is part of the problem, that we need to respect everybody, men, women, no difference in the two, in my opinion. And I don't want my amygdala misremembering something wrong. To deal with that.
Dr. Maxey, I don't think that you said anything wrong. I think you stated a fact that historically, I guess maybe Dr. Maxey, I'm not quite as old as some people. And maybe there was a time when all that mattered was the fact that most of the time back in the day, men were much stronger, and strength kind of allowed you to be in charge of stuff, or at least think. And then I think the women allowed us to think that we were in charge of stuff too. So there was a combination of that was happening. I think that nowadays we value intellect, and I hope we're valuing compassion more and more. We're valuing kindness more and more. And when it comes to intellect and compassion and kindness, women beat men every day of the week. And I still say my favorite world leader in recent years was the woman who was Prime Minister of New Zealand. There was a documentary about her and the way that she handled crises, being able to talk about compassion and kindness. Anyway, so no, I think we are at a point now where we understand that women have at least as much, if not more, to offer to the social order as men. And at the same time that I think that's true, I think that men are still about as trifling as we can be, because there's no way that Hillary Clinton should have lost that election. And there's no way that Kamala Harris should have lost that election when you look at who they were running against. I'm not saying who I'm advocating for. I'm just saying, based on what I can read and what I can discern, I think there's something about voting for women that we still need to get past in America. Other places have had women have run other countries. The country didn't fall apart. So I just think that's an American thing, and I hope that we can get past it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Walsh, for bringing this topic up. Excellent discussion. We need to do it again. And thank you for inviting Dr. Harmon to be our co-moderator and speak. And thank you, Dr. Hines. And thank you, Simon, for so much for making this work. Well, have a happy Sunday. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. Have a great day.
Okay.
Good day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Dr. Harmon.
Bye.
Thank you, Simon.